Hi everyone. Thank you for being here so early. It's really good to be here at DappCon, where we are all excited to bring decentralized applications and crypto to everyone in the world. So this is what this talk is going to be about. It's going to be about how do we build dApps that people want. And I'm going to start a little bit, but taking a stock of at where we are at right now. How have we done so far? And the truth is, we haven't done so great. So far, we suck at it. And the reason is 2 years ago, even we were invited to this great party where the music was playing, the wine was flowing, there were so many ICOs, the money was flowing around, and every ICO that appeared kind of fulfilled their raising goals. And there was a few every month, and it looked like the party and the dream was never going to end. But of course, like everything else in life, it eventually ended. And if you compute the numbers after all the ICO craze, there were more than 2,200 ICOs that were completed, and more than $21 billion were raised. And what can we show for after all this? We have exactly zero applications with more than 5,000 DAU. This is really bad. For comparison, the top mobile application has more than 50 million DAU. That's like a 4 orders of magnitude difference. We need to do better. And where did all the money go? Your guess is as good as mine. But if after $21 billion we cannot create a single consumer application, there is a sign that we need to do better. So in summary, we suck, but that's okay, because when you are working with new technologies, it's normal to fail. You are innovating, you're at the top of the spear. And we're going to see how this happened before with other technological cycles, with other paradigms. For example, this is how the web looked in 2000. And even if the web started in the 1980s, it wasn't until the 2000 when it hit consumer adoption. And around that time, 2000, everyone wanted to put everything on the web. Pets, books, food, everything. So you see companies like Webvan, Pets.com, Cosmo, that the valuation triple and quadruple over a period of 6 months because they just had www on their website. So again, this party eventually ended. And after the dot-com bust, more than $5 trillion were lost in this bubble. And around 50% of the companies that were alive died. So there are a couple of lessons that we can learn from this Web3. One is that when you're working on new technology, it's normal that expectations get ahead of actual value. Everyone gets so excited, there is a lot of capital, that's normal. And the other one is like the amount of money raised doesn't equal success. In fact, it's a really poor metric at that. Now let's look at another technology, VR. VR has been around for a while, but it's actually always 2 years away from us. It has been around for more than 30 years. And the lesson from VR is that the last 5% is always the hardest. We tend to underestimate how long it's going to take us to close that 5%. Because VR, for example, there are like 7 million headsets right now in the market, but the average playtime is not longer than 20 minutes. So it's like really, really short. And it's because of the pain that the user needs to go through to enjoy the experience. So now that we have looked at a couple different paradigms, technological cycles before, let's generalize a little bit, thinking about the framework that Carlota Perez created that is called the search cycle. Basically says for every technology, there's like a big bang moment that you can think the Bitcoin white paper for crypto that starts it all. Then a few years later, there is another big bang that triggers the installation phase. In our case, that can be Ethereum or even the beginning of the ICO. So the installation phase can last 20 to 30 years, and we are in it right now. This is the period where there is a lot of creative distraction. We need to try a lot of things because there are no proven business models to follow. There are a lot of bubbles because there is a lot of capital deployed around, but few things actually work. And on top of it, we are competing with the previous technology that is at the top, that is mature. In our case, that's the cloud, that's web, that's mobile. Eventually, though, this installation phase will end and we will get into the deployment phase, where the actual capital produces value and the investors get a return, the consumers get to enjoy the benefits of the technology, and the technology matures enough to be widespread. The web, cloud, and mobile, again, are in the deployment phase. So where are we at with crypto right now? There is another mental model that we can use from Gartner that is really similar and overlaps the previous one. That is the hype cycle. Every technology goes through a hype cycle that looks like this. It starts slow, but then expectations get ahead of themselves, and then they go through this peak. And then there is a crash, or crypto winter in our case, and then eventually it will get to the plateau of productivity. According to Gartner, we are just after the crash, a little bit, 1-2 years away, but we are like 5 to 10 years away from getting to this plateau of productivity. Again, mobile, cloud, or web, they are already in the plateau of productivity. So we are in this desert, and nothing is going to feel easy and nothing is going to feel right, because there are no business models that work so far, there are no gurus to listen to, and there are no companies to copy yet. So how do we cross it? Another useful mental model from Seth Godin is to see this desert as a dip. The dip is what separates the beginner's luck from real mastery. It's the series of obstacles that we need to overcome to get to the promised land. So how do we cross it as fast as possible? By doing two things. First, building things people want, and then hiding all the technical complexity. The first one might sound familiar for you, is the slogan from Y Combinator. I used to work at Y Combinator for a couple of years, and there they communicate a simple idea to entrepreneurs that is really powerful. There are only two things that matter: coding, creating product, and talking to users. And the faster you can do both, the more you can learn, because startups are a game of learning. And you need to close that feedback loop and make it as short as possible. Because users in the end don't care about the technology, don't care about how it's done. They just care about how they can use an application, a product to solve their daily problems, their daily needs. So it's really important that you ask yourself why. Why are you using blockchain? Ask this to your customers, to your coworkers, to your partners. The answer cannot be because it's the technology of the day, that it's really cool, and it's going to solve everything. And definitely it cannot be that it's decentralized. Because remember, if it's useless and it's decentralized, it's still useless. And your only differentiation cannot be that you add crypto to the name. So it's crypto books, crypto pets, crypto games. That cannot be it. And that reminds me a lot actually to the web again. Like we have pets.com, and at that time, just by adding www or web to something like webban, double or triple the valuation. Excuse me. Yeah. And around this time, some of these products like Webvan eventually worked, like Amazon made it work. But they didn't work because they were on the web. They worked because they created new business model and they improved the customer experience quite a bit. For example, Amazon, they put books on the web, but they succeeded because they let shoppers shop from the comfort on their couch, have an increased catalog, 3 or 4 orders of magnitude higher, and then also say, hey, are you part of Amazon Prime? You get the book the next day for free. That's a crazy value proposition. It's great. We need to think along the same lines. So how we find value with this new technology? How we use it to create something new? There is a good mental model that is, think about the ways that you can use the technology to unlock something new. What does crypto, what does decentralized application give us that wasn't possible before? And one of the things it gives us is tokens. Tokens are programmable money. Now with crypto, you can financialize or securitize any asset, both offline and online. You can see how DeFi, for example, is using this in the right way. Another good thing that the technology gives us is an open development platform. I used to work at Zynga as well, and we developed games like Farmville for Facebook. Then one night, Facebook changed the algorithm, and then it killed half of the companies working in the space and eventually drove all of our revenue stuff. So this is not a good place to be. By contrast, on Ethereum, everything is open, everything is composable, so nobody's going to change the rules of the game. Finally, privacy. We can finally give the data to the users. And don't forget that the users may not necessarily care about privacy. They care about what you do with it. In summary, we need to build something that is 10 times cheaper, 10 times faster, or something new that they couldn't do before. A good example from a previous paradigm is Dropbox. By the time Dropbox appeared, nobody understood the cloud, but everyone was hyping the cloud. Cloud this, cloud that. So Dropbox, instead of saying, no, we're a cloud storage, we're going to make storage easier, what they did is, hey, you can now access all your files from your iPad, from your phone, and from your computer. And we're also going to make sure that you never lose it. That's a really good value proposition that they communicated without saying anything on the cloud. So in our case, we're starting to see some green sprouts in DeFi. For example, you can, if you're a trader, you can either, if you want to open a leveraged loan, that is basically using some part of your collateral because you want to grow 4x, 5x, you can go the traditional route and get a loan, or you can use DeFi and get a loan in 5 minutes. That's 10 times faster than the usual. They are doing it the right way, and they are finding a small product market fit within that niche. The other thing we need to do to build things people want is hide the technical complexity. Again, users don't care about how it's done. They just care about what's the value they get. And honestly, right now, using any decentralized application is similar to visit the dentist. You get to this application, Crypto Monsters or whatever, you press a button, and then the Fox appears. And then you need to install the Fox, then you need to sign up, then you need to go to an exchange, send money back to the Fox, you go back to the game, you click, there is a transaction with gibberish, a confirmation window, then you click yes, then finally you can click the button, you wait for 3 minutes, and then finally you enter the game. This is really painful. So it's not a surprise that the CEO of Dapper Labs, when he was working on CryptoKitties, mentioned that they had a 99% drop-off in the funnel when they trigger MetaMask. This is crazy. This means that just 1 out of 100 users get to use the game. We need to do better. And around user onboarding and user experience, we are really happy to announce that in the last two weeks, we have created Gas Station Network. It's on mainnet, along with Taboo Key and the Meta Cartel and the Gas Station Alliance and the Ethereum Foundation. Gas Station Network is a system to help your application behave like any other normal web application. Your users don't need to use MetaMask. Your users don't need to go to Coinbase. Your users can just use the app normally. And you can assume the transaction cost of your users as part of your customer acquisition cost. And you can hide it. Some of my coworkers here, we're going to have a workshop about this tomorrow or Friday. And if you want to know more, please stop by. So I want to finish with some good news. Gartner estimates that blockchain is going to create a substantial amount of value, more than 175 billion by 2025 and more than 3 trillion by 2030. But the only way we can start capturing this value is if we start sucking less. And we can do that by offering the good of the blockchain and hiding the bad and ugly. And this is the only thing we can build dApps that people want. Thank you.
I'm just curious, do you know how some of these platforms like Gas Station Network are attacking like DDoS and like Sybil resistance?
Yeah, Gas Station is a bit complicated because the system is really complicated, but basically it's based on game theory and incentives because there are several parties, there are relayers, there's a contract that executes the transaction, and then there's the end user. There is a set of balance and checks and balances that keep everything in like a perfect arms race, so nobody is incentivized to mess with the other parties. If you are curious, I can tell you more details.
Cool, yeah. Thank you.
Any more questions?
Okay, so when you say we should hide the complexity, I sometimes have the impression that it's rather easy to hide the complexity of the dApp itself, but not the complexity of having to deal with cryptocurrency. So when people use the dApp and earn some reward in tokens somehow, there's still a problem that they have to exchange the tokens for something that can be exchangeable on a bigger exchange for fiat money, then cash it out. So maybe it's would it be better to build dApps that hold their the tokens of their users in custody and then offer maybe some kind of automatic payout in fiat? where the tokens are automatically exchanged. I mean, I know it does contradict the idea behind blockchain technology, but would that make it easier for user adoption?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I would like to start by saying that in the end, it depends on the pain you are solving, because the greater the pain, the users are going to go through more hoops to they are going to be able to withstand any pain. If, for example, you solve something that they need there. For example, at the beginning, everyone used Craigslist because there was no other way to buy furniture, even if it was really difficult to use, and so on. So it's really good to figure out what are you offering. There is a good mental model either. Are you offering a vitamin or are you offering a painkiller? If you're offering vitamins, I think it's really good to hide the complexity as much as you can. If you're offering a painkiller, just give them as much value as you can, as you mentioned, fiat brands and helping users. In the end, if you help users make money, they are going to adopt it. You know, it's like Uber, Airbnb, all these new business models that appear 15 years after the internet was mainstream, Uber appeared or Airbnb appeared. That's like the business models that finally figured out how to monetize the web appear 15 years later. So I think the same way with us, the best way we can think about this is like how we help other people make money that they cannot do right now. And then I think it's going to take 5 to 10 years for these mature business models to appear.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your talk from the very beginning, but what you said in one of the last slides that 99% of the users drop off when presented with MetaMask. This is also something we experienced. We are a real estate tokenization platform, and even though we think the real estate part is the most difficult part, for most people it's actually MetaMask. So what do you recommend instead? I mean, there are many platforms like Upvest, for example, as a startup from Berlin, who abstract this into a mid layer. But what, in your opinion, what's your recommendation? What platforms should do?
I mean, there are many alternatives, and it depends on your use case. For example, there are some alternatives where you can just store encrypted keys on your backend and just offer the functionality to your users behind a normal password. Like, for example, Dharma or Portis Hub. Then you also have things like Gas Station Network that is more decentralized, that can work better for applications that have a lot of transactions, but not a lot of high value. For example, it would be great for games and consumer applications, but not so great for DeFi. In your case, for real estate, I think security is probably the utmost importance, and the amount that is securing the system is high. So there are different trade-offs for each system, but I think being aware of all of them and just choosing the right one for your approach. But it's again, Gas Station Network and decentralized meta transaction system, or you can use something like your own backend where you store the keys encrypted behind a normal username and password, or you can use something like Portis that they do this for you.
But you know, that's not allowed. I mean, there's a new legislation, the AML5 directive, which doesn't allow you to store the private keys of the users.
Yeah, then that reduces your options, but you still have a few.
Okay.
Thank you, Adoro.